September 1944. The verdant, war-torn fields of Lorraine, France, bore witness to a confrontation that defied conventional wisdom. Following the Allied breakout from Normandy, the German High Command, desperate to stabilize their collapsing front, launched a counteroffensive. Spearheading this effort were the formidable Panther tanks of the 5th Panzer Army, units like the 21st Panzer Division. These machines, with their sloped, impenetrable frontal armor and long-barreled 7.5-centimeter KWK-42L70 gun, were widely considered the superior armored fighting vehicles of their time, designed specifically to outmatch any Allied tank. Arrayed against them was the American 4th Armored Division, equipped primarily with the M4 Sherman. Often dismissed by both its adversaries and, at times, its own crews, as a Ronson, a lighter that lit up on the first strike, the Sherman was seen as a lighter, less protected, and less lethally armed opponent. A head-to-head engagement between the Panther and the Sherman was, on paper, a foregone conclusion, favoring the German behemoth. Yet, what unfolded near the town of Arracourt was a stunning reversal of expectations. In a series of engagements that September, the American Shermans achieved a decisive victory, inflicting disproportionate losses on the German panzers. The final tally was nothing short of astonishing: a kill ratio of 7 Panther tanks destroyed for every single Sherman lost. This was not merely a tactical success, it was a profound strategic anomaly. How, then, did the seemingly outmatched Sherman crews not only survive, but decisively triumph over Germany's most feared tanks in an open-field engagement? The answer, as we shall uncover, lies not in superior armor or firepower, but in an invisible advantage that fundamentally reshaped the battlefield. This invisible advantage, often overshadowed by the roar of cannon fire and the clanking of tracks, was the unsung hero of Arracourt: the American FM radio communication system. Specifically, the SCR-508, SCR-528, and SCR-538 series radios, standard equipment in every M4 Sherman, provided a tactical edge so profound that it fundamentally altered the dynamics of armored warfare. While German Panther tanks boasted thicker frontal armor and a more powerful 75mm KWK-42L70 gun, their crews often fought in isolation, relying on rudimentary visual signals or unreliable short-range AM radios that were prone to static and interception. In stark contrast, American tank crews, wired into a crystal-clear, secure FM network, operated as a cohesive, responsive unit. This wasn't merely an incremental improvement, it was a paradigm shift. It allowed Sherman commanders to direct their platoons with unprecedented speed and precision, coordinating maneuvers, relaying intelligence, and calling for supporting fire in real time. What looked to the Germans like supernatural coordination was in fact the seamless flow of information across a battlefield network decades ahead of its time. In the following analysis, we will delve into the technical brilliance behind these unassuming radio sets and unravel precisely how this invisible technology transformed the M4 Sherman from a seemingly vulnerable target into the central node of a highly effective tactical combat system, ultimately dictating the outcome at Arracourt and laying the groundwork for modern network-centric warfare. Ironically, Germany, the very nation that pioneered the concept of Blitzkrieg, lightning war, through the coordinated application of armored force, was the first to recognize the imperative of robust communication within its panzer divisions. General Heinz Guderian, the architect of Germany's mechanized warfare doctrine, famously emphasized that the radio is the brain of the tank. His early vision ensured that initial German tank formations were equipped with radios, allowing a degree of tactical flexibility unseen by their adversaries in the early war years.
However, this early advantage proved tragically fleeting. As the conflict escalated and the scale of engagement grew, Germany's commitment to universal, high-quality tank communication waned. Their primary tank radio, the Fug 5, Funkgerät 5, operating on amplitude modulation, or AM, possessed critical limitations that would severely hamstring their armored operations. The FUG-5 typically offered a restricted operational range of only 1 to 4 kilometers, heavily dependent on terrain. Crucially, its AM frequency made it highly susceptible to atmospheric interference, static, and even the simple electrical noise generated by the tank's own engine, degrading clarity and reliability precisely when it was needed most. But the most profound tactical flaw lay not just in the radio's technical specifications, but in its deployment doctrine. Unlike the Allied standard, the vast majority of German panzers were equipped only with receivers, capable of listening to commands from a lead vehicle, but utterly unable to transmit information back. Only command tanks and a select few others possessed two-way radio sets. This fundamental asymmetry meant that while a panzer company commander could broadcast orders, individual tank crews could not report real-time battlefield observations, confirm receipt of orders, or request support without resorting to archaic visual signals. This severe communication deficit inevitably forced German armored units into a rigid, top-down command structure, fundamentally hindering their ability to adapt rapidly to the fluid, unpredictable exigencies of modern combined arms combat. It was a legacy of miscalculation that would prove devastating against an enemy whose every tank was a node in a dynamic, responsive network. While the Wehrmacht grappled with a legacy of communication miscalculations, fundamentally hindering their ability to adapt rapidly to the fluid exigencies of modern combined arms combat, a starkly different philosophy was taking root across the Atlantic. The United States, recognizing the paramount importance of battlefield cohesion, was quietly forging the very network that would redefine armored warfare. The genesis of this unparalleled American edge lay in the rapid and visionary development of frequency modulation, or FM, radio technology for military applications. Spearheaded by the ingenious engineers at Galvin Manufacturing Corporation, soon to be globally recognized as Motorola, figures like Daniel E. Noble and Henryk Magnowski relentlessly pushed the boundaries of wireless communication. By 1941, their efforts culminated in the perfection of a robust, reliable FM radio system specifically designed for the demanding environment of armored vehicles. This was not merely an incremental upgrade over existing amplitude modulation, or AM, it was a technological leap. FM offered vastly superior clarity, remarkable resistance to static and jamming, and a stable signal that remained uncompromised even across the varied and often challenging terrains of a combat zone. Crucially, the U.S. military made a strategic decision that would reverberate across every battlefield from North Africa to the Rhine. Every single M4 Sherman tank was to be equipped as standard with a powerful, crystal-controlled FM radio. This audacious commitment ensured that every Sherman, regardless of its position in the command hierarchy, was not an isolated combat platform, but an active, integrated node within a dynamic, responsive tactical network. It was this foundational choice, born of technological innovation and strategic foresight, that would fundamentally redefine the capabilities of American armored forces, transforming individual tanks into a symphony of coordinated steel. While the German Panther boasted thicker frontal armor and a more powerful high-velocity 7.5-centimeter KK-42 L-70 gun, the true asymmetric advantage of the American Sherman tank lay in its often overlooked communications suite. At its core was the SCR-508, or its variants, the SCR-528 and SCR-538, a system that fundamentally redefined battlefield command and control. Unlike the German FUG-5, which typically operated with a mere 10 watts, the SCR-508 broadcasted with a robust 25 watts of power. This substantial increase translated directly into a significantly greater operational range and more reliable signal penetration through varied terrain, from dense forests to rolling hills. Critically, these American radios employed crystal-controlled precision, ensuring highly stable frequencies. This meant that once a channel was set, it remained incredibly consistent, minimizing drift and interference, and guaranteeing that all units on the network were reliably synchronized. The true game changer, however, was its use of frequency modulation, or FM technology. While German and Soviet radios largely relied on amplitude modulation, AM, which was highly susceptible to static, engine noise, and atmospheric interference, FM modulation delivered crystal-clear static-free voice communication. This was not a minor upgrade, it was a quantum leap. Imagine the chaos of battle: engine roar, explosions, small arms fire. In such an environment, clear communication is paramount. FM allowed tank commanders to speak and be understood instantly, without the constant struggle against noise that plagued their adversaries. Furthermore, the SCR 508 series featured multiple preset channels, offering commanders immediate tactical flexibility. Units could rapidly switch between general command nets, fire support channels, or intercompany frequencies without the time-consuming manual tuning required by less sophisticated systems. This adaptability was crucial for dynamic battlefield situations, enabling swift adjustments to evolving threats and opportunities. Finally, each Sherman was equipped with an integrated intercom system, allowing the tank commander, gunner, loader, and driver to communicate seamlessly within their own vehicle. This internal network, often taken for granted today, was vital for precise gunnery, rapid target acquisition, and coordinated maneuvers, reducing internal friction and enhancing the crew's overall effectiveness. Collectively, these technical specifications transformed the Sherman from an individual fighting vehicle into a highly responsive, interconnected node within a larger tactical network, providing an unparalleled and ultimately decisive advantage on the battlefield. The strategic situation in September 1944 was one of daring Allied advance met by a desperate German defense. General George S. Patton's U.S. Third Army, having shattered the German lines in Normandy and executed a lightning dash across France, now pushed relentlessly towards the Siegfried Line. This rapid thrust, while strategically brilliant, inevitably created a logistical nightmare, stretching supply lines to their breaking point and leaving advanced elements vulnerable to counterattack. The German High Command, sensing an opportunity, began massing forces for a decisive blow. From the depths of the Reich, the newly formed 5th Panzer Army, comprising the 111th and 113th Panzer Brigades, was unleashed. These formations were notably equipped with the formidable Panther tank, a vehicle widely considered superior to the American M4 Sherman in nearly every conventional metric of tank warfare. Its thick, sloped frontal armor was almost impervious to the Sherman's 75mm and even 76mm guns at standard combat ranges, while its potent 7.5cm KK-42 L70 cannon could pierce a Sherman from well over a mile away. Their mission was clear: launch a crushing counteroffensive through the Lorraine region, specifically targeting the U.S. 4th Armored Division, one of Patton's most aggressive formations, whose Combat Command A was operating near Arracourt. On September 18th, the initial contact was made. American reconnaissance elements, expecting only sporadic resistance, suddenly found themselves staring down the barrels of these heavily armored behemoths. The shock was palpable. Crews of the lightly armed M8 armored cars and M4 Shermans quickly discovered the futility of frontal engagements. A direct confrontation with a Panther often meant swift destruction. However, instead of collapsing, the American forces, particularly the agile reconnaissance units and the lead elements of Task Force Baum, demonstrated an immediate and remarkable capacity for adaptation. They instinctively began to leverage the one decisive advantage the Sherman did possess: its unparalleled communication system, which transformed individual vehicles into components of a unified, highly aware fighting force.
With the technological cornerstone of the FM radio firmly established, the critical question becomes, how did the American tank crews of the 4th Armored Division leverage this invisible advantage on the muddy, contested battlefields of Lorraine? The answer lies in a newfound level of tactical coordination and flexibility that fundamentally reshaped their engagements. One of the most effective tactics born from this superior communication was what became known as tank plinking. Facing the formidable Panther tanks, whose thick frontal armor rendered many direct hits from a Sherman 75mm gun ineffective, American crews developed a coordinated approach. 2 Shermans, or even a small platoon, could operate in concert. One tank would often serve as a decoy or a frontal distraction, drawing the Panther's attention and devastating 75mm KK-42 L-70 gun. Simultaneously, its counterpart, guided by real-time voice commands received clearly over the FM net, would execute a rapid flanking maneuver. This allowed the 2nd Sherman to engage the Panther's more vulnerable side or rear armor with precision, often leading to catastrophic results for the German tank. This intricate dance of deception and coordinated assault was simply impossible for German units, whose limited inter-tank communication meant their engagements were largely sequential and less adaptable. Beyond these paired assaults, the FM radio network facilitated an unprecedented speed in target acquisition and information sharing across entire companies and battalions. A scout element spotting an enemy's strongpoint or an anti-tank gun emplacement could instantly relay its precise coordinates to every other tank in the formation. This meant that targets were identified, confirmed, and engaged with minimal delay, drastically reducing the reaction time for American forces and preventing ambushes from fully materializing. This shared dynamic battlefield picture was a profound force multiplier. Furthermore, the seamless integration of artillery and air support became a signature of American armored operations. No longer relying on visual signals, cumbersome landlines, or delayed radio relays, a Sherman commander could in real time vector in devastating artillery barrages or call for immediate close air support. This direct line of communication enabled rapid adjustments to fire missions, allowing for pinpoint accuracy that could neutralize German threats almost as quickly as they appeared. At Arracourt, this capability was crucial, enabling the 4th Armor to break up German counterattacks and eliminate Panther concentrations before they could effectively close the distance.
This constant, clear flow of information dramatically enhanced situational awareness for every crew, significantly minimizing the risk of ambush, a pervasive danger in the hedgerow country of Normandy and the wooded terrain of Lorraine. Commanders had a clearer understanding of the overall tactical situation, troop dispositions, and enemy movements than their adversaries. As Major General John Shirley Wood, commander of the 4th Armored Division, famously articulated, "Speed is the essence of armored warfare." The FM radio was the nervous system that allowed that speed to be translated into coordinated, lethal action, turning the individual Sherman into a highly effective node within a broader, interconnected fighting force. While American armor at Arracourt flowed across the battlefield with the synchronized precision of a digital network, their German adversaries were operating in a profound and disorienting fog of war. For the crews of the formidable Panther tanks, the battlefield became an intensely isolating experience, where the very concept of coordinated action seemed to vanish amidst the chaos. The Panther's formidable armor and 7.5cm KK-42 L-70 gun were undeniable assets, yet its tactical deployment was crippled by a critical deficiency: its internal and external communication systems. Unlike the American Shermans, not every German tank possessed a two-way radio. Many were equipped only with receivers, relying heavily on visual signals from their platoon leaders, whose own radios were often limited in range and prone to static. This meant that the real-time ebb and flow of battle, the rapid changes in enemy position, or the urgent need for mutual support
often went unreported or unheard across the German lines. This stark disparity led to a profound strategic misunderstanding on the German side. Commanders, observing the seemingly supernatural agility and coordinated responses of American tank formations, often attributed it to exceptional individual crew training or perhaps even an inexplicable stroke of luck. They failed to grasp that what they were witnessing was the direct consequence of an invisible electromagnetic advantage, the FM radio. General Major Hasso von Manteuffel, a highly respected panzer commander, famously noted the American crew's excellent training, highlighting the German tendency to attribute tactical success to human skill rather than a foundational technological edge in communication. For the German Panzerschütze, tank crewmen, engaged in the maelstrom of Arracourt, this fractured communication fostered a pervasive sense of vulnerability. Orders were slow to arrive, if they arrived at all. Calls for support went unheard. The absence of real-time situational awareness meant a constant state of uncertainty, a gnawing fear that the next American Sherman to appear from the hedgerows would be part of a larger, unseen threat. Consequently, German counterattacks at Arracourt often devolved into disjointed, piecemeal efforts. Panther companies, designed to operate as powerful, concentrated spearheads, were frequently unable to mass their fire or coordinate flanking maneuvers. They would engage the enemy in isolation, only to be overwhelmed by the collective firepower of multiple interconnected Sherman platoons. The Panther, for all its might, was fighting blind, its formidable capabilities rendered impotent by its inability to see and react as a unified force. The numbers from Arracourt were stark, almost unbelievable, a 7-to-1 kill ratio in favor of American Shermans against the vaunted German Panthers. This remarkable disparity was not a testament to superior armor or gunnery in isolation, but to the seamless, instantaneous command and control afforded by the SCR 508 FM radio. Arracourt stood as a pivotal engagement, a crucible where tactical superiority, enabled by unparalleled communication, decisively overcame material disadvantages. While the Panther boasted thicker frontal armor and a more potent 7.5-centimeter KK-42 L-70 gun, the American crews, operating as a cohesive, agile network, consistently outmaneuvered their German adversaries. They executed coordinated flanking maneuvers, concentrated suppressive fire, and rapidly repositioned to exploit weaknesses, often before the German units could even acknowledge the threat, let alone formulate a coherent response. This battlefield reality at Arracourt provided undeniable proof that the capacity for rapid information exchange and decentralized decision-making was a more potent force multiplier than any individual tank's specifications. It solidified a critical shift in American armored doctrine, moving away from rigid, pre-planned movements towards a more fluid, adaptable approach. The ability of an American tank company commander to communicate instantly with every vehicle in his formation and receive immediate feedback fostered a doctrine of mission command, where initiative at lower echelons was not just encouraged but actively facilitated. Units could react dynamically to unfolding threats, exploit fleeting opportunities, and maintain operational tempo even in the face of numerically or technologically superior forces. Arracourt thus became a defining example of how an invisible advantage, the electromagnetic wave, could dictate the outcome of a visceral clash of steel, shaping the very blueprint for flexible, decentralized command structures that would characterize modern armored warfare. Arracourt was not merely a tactical victory, nor simply a testament to the resilience of American tank crews. It was a profound operational epiphany, a crucible where the foundational principles of modern network-centric warfare were forged. The seamless, instantaneous flow of information facilitated by the SCR 508 system transformed individual Sherman tanks from isolated platforms into nodes within a dynamic, distributed network. This unprecedented level of connectivity allowed for decentralized decision-making, where subordinate commanders, equipped with real-time intelligence and the ability to coordinate across multiple units, could exploit fleeting opportunities that their adversaries, operating under rigid, top-down command structures, simply could not perceive or react to.
This was the dawn of true information superiority on the battlefield. The American forces at Arracourt possessed a cognitive advantage, a clearer, more coherent picture of the battle space than their German counterparts. This enabled them to anticipate, adapt, and act with a speed and agility that fundamentally altered the tempo of engagement. The invisible battle of electromagnetic waves, the constant stream of voice commands and tactical updates, proved to be as decisive, if not more so, than the visible clash of steel and fire. It dictated maneuver, enabled swift concentration of force, and allowed for the rapid exploitation of enemy weaknesses, effectively turning the Sherman's perceived material shortcomings into tactical irrelevance. The lessons of Arracourt echo through the corridors of military doctrine to this day, solidifying a critical truth that would define warfare for generations. In the interconnected chaos of the modern battlefield, the connected would always defeat